All right. Good morning, everyone, or at least good morning on the West Coast. Good afternoon on the East Coast. Welcome to our third episode of SiteCapture Live. I'm Kamal Shah. I'm the founder and CEO of SiteCapture, and we're excited to talk to you today about integration, how you can connect SiteCapture to your other cloud apps. I'm just going to put up this little presentation here. Today, we're going to be talking really about how to take advantage of the various integration approaches that we have to connect SiteCapture to your other cloud apps and the benefits you can get out of that. Our guest today is Rob Schmidt. Rob is the partner at Outliant, which is one of our technology partners. Rob has been involved with SiteCapture for a long time, actually formerly used to work at SiteCapture in a customer-facing role with sales and customer success. And Rob has a really good understanding of our product, of our customers, of the needs of our customers, and has continued to be a great partner for us as he started Outliant, has been working there and provides both some internal support for us, but also works closely with our customers in helping them be successful with their integrations. So Rob, let me hand it over to you and let you give a brief introduction to yourself and Outliant.
Yeah, thanks, Kamal, and hey, everyone. So as Kamal mentioned, I've been working with SiteCapture for what seems like almost a decade now. Started Outliant. We're a full-service agency, really specializing in development. So, as Kamal mentioned, we support a lot of SiteCapture customers, especially with getting stood up with their Zapier integrations and more custom integrations that we'll touch on. But we also do a lot of custom development and have a real specialty working in the solar field, because I have a background in solar, which is actually how I ended up getting connected with SiteCapture initially a number of years ago.
Great. All right. Well, Rob, glad to have you. We should have a lot of fun today talking about integration. All right. Let me talk about the agenda. So for those of you who haven't joined a SiteCapture live event, we'll probably spend 30 minutes. We actually reserve an extra 15 minutes in case there's a lot of questions. We're happy to stay on and answer them. We'll start with an introduction to SiteCapture. We obviously have a lot of customers of people that are quite familiar with SiteCapture, but often in attendance, we have people that are not as familiar with SiteCapture, so we're going to talk about them. Then we'll dive in a little bit about today's topic. I think start off with a sort of a conversation about what the problems are that people experience when they're using multiple cloud apps, and then how to solve those with integration. And then we'll kind of dive into some demo and discussion, a bit of a Q&A format between Rob and I, where we'll dive into Zapier, what Zapier is, how Zapier gets used by customers, some of the common integrations and problems that get solved by that. So that's really our agenda for today. We'll end with some Q&A for anybody that in the audience that has questions. You can post them as comments in whatever platform you're watching on. We'll see them and we'll answer them. Some of them, if they come around, they're very relevant to what we're talking about in the moment. We'll try to answer them in real time. Otherwise, we'll save them for the end and answer them at the end of the session today. All right. Okay, so let's start off with an introduction to SiteCapture. SiteCapture is a software platform. As a company, we've been around for over 10 years providing field operations software for the solar industry, property management industry, and construction industries. And really, our main goal as a company is to help streamline field operations with our customers, help them be more efficient, help them have better visibility into their field operations, be able to collect all the critical data and photos that are required, and really manage those things to save time and money on every job that our customers do. And that's what we really do as a business in terms of helping out our customers and the industries that we're in. As I mentioned, we work in really 3 different industries, primarily solar, property management, and construction, and a little bit of some of the use cases that our customers use us for. So in solar, really kind of everything end to end, from sales through installation management to O&M, every step of the way where you have somebody out on a job site and you need them to collect information and data or track work that's being done, site surveys during the installation, and during operations and maintenance kind of activities that need to happen. SiteCapture gets used in terms of helping make those processes more efficient. In the property management sector, our software gets used for performing inspections. Those inspections might be pre-acquisition inspections, they may be routine inspections, they may be inspections that happen during a turn. were used for work order management around construction projects or maintenance, and used a lot in the turns and renovation side in terms of managing renovation and construction projects that happen during those phases of a property management cycle. And then just in general, construction used for estimating and scoping jobs, tracking projects, doing quality control, and making sure that our customers have very good photo documentation as they're closing out jobs. I want to make sure that the work they've done is well documented. So those gives you an example of how SiteCapture gets used. For those of you that are new to SiteCapture or want to learn more, please reach out. You can reach out to sales@sitecapture.com to get more information, set up a demo, get a free trial. We can support all of that for people that are new to SiteCapture. Great. All right, let's get into the topic of the day. So, the topic of the day is connection between cloud apps, integration between various cloud apps. So, if you're a property management company, you might be using SiteCapture for all of your field operations, or you might have a property management system that you're using for tenant management and for a lot of your financials. You may have another accounting system you use. If you're a solar company, you may have a CRM like Salesforce or HubSpot that you use for managing all your customers. And then you use SiteCapture for your field operations. You might use another application for your document storage. And when you're completing projects or you're doing work, end to end, from the time that you're starting something all the way through, all of these systems come into play. And there's multiple different workflows, and there's all sorts of different people that are using them. And to manage that with multiple systems that are not connected is really time consuming and cumbersome. People need to log into multiple systems to see data. They need to do one thing here and then do one thing there. Maybe primarily they're always working out of the CRM because they're kind of on the sales side, but they might need to jump to another app to see something else. And then sometimes it gets solved by saying, hey, let's just copy data from one system to another. And people are doing that manually with data entry. So taking data that might be in one platform and moving it to another. So they've got their site survey data from SiteCapture and they want to have it in their CRM, and people are downloading photos and then trying to connect them or copying information that was captured and putting it in there. Anyway, those are just really time consuming and inefficient ways to work when you've got a lot of different people that are involved, a lot of different workflows, people in different divisions. And that's really the problem that integration can solve. And I'm sure a lot of people experience that, especially when they're getting started with multiple systems and have various technology stacks or various different kinds of applications that they use. So what's the solution? Well, hey, we want to try to eliminate all of that data entry. We want to be able to eliminate having to jump from one system to another. So really the approach is to have a way that in a technological solution, those apps can talk to each other. So data from one system can flow to another system and back and forth in both directions. So if someone who works primarily out of the CRM wants to see field operations data like a inspection data or a site survey, if they could see it right in the CRM, that would make things so much easier for them. If you have an accounting system and you need to get information on, the cost of a work order or cost of a job that was done or what you're paying a vendor, and it's in your field operations system, you'd love that just to flow directly into your accounting system. And that's really what integration can do, is really eliminate the need to switch systems, eliminate the need to give people logins to all these systems, eliminate the need to have to copy it manually if you want to try to get data from one to another. And in SiteCapture, we support really 3 different ways to integrate. We have an API, an application programming interface. What that really means is that if you have developers, they can write code that connects SiteCapture to other apps that you use. And that's really the most flexible and most powerful approach, but also the one that probably takes the most time and effort. But if you really have the need to have a really customized way that your systems talk to each other, or that you have very customized workflows in terms of when data needs to get from one system to another and needs to happen in a specific way, using the API is a powerful way to do that. The next approach we have is we support work in a platform called Zapier. And Zapier is a platform that lets you connect cloud apps together without really the need of programming. It's they have a drag and drop interface. You can say, hey, I want this data from SiteCapture to flow to my CRM, or I want this data in my CRM to flow to SiteCapture. And we'll be diving into a lot of that. And the third is we have a few direct connections or direct connections or direct integrations into various systems. One is Salesforce, And that's actually something that doesn't require the API or Zapier. You can just configure that directly in our application. And at the end of the day, what this gives you is like all your data kind of can be centralized in kind of your main system of record, which is a nice way, whatever that might be, the CRM, or maybe it is SiteCapture where most of your data, you want it to reside. All right, one more slide, and then we're going to dive into some, questions and answers with Rob. Okay, so really, we talked about this already, but what are the benefits of integration? One, what are the business benefits? Well, you should be able to shorten projects by having workflows connected together in real time, data flowing in real time, not having to wait a day for data to get from one system to another. The idea is that you can operate a lot more effectively in real time, and with that, shorten the projects, the time it takes to complete projects. Obviously, a lot of time and money that can be saved, eliminating some of those inefficiencies we talked about related to switching systems or needing multiple logins or manual data entry. The ability to get the critical data and photos that you capture from SiteCapture into other systems, and really just to simplify your tech stack with all of your technology by having everything work together in a really great way. So so those are really the results, and that's really what we're going to be talking about. All right, so let's dive in a little bit. So we're going to talk about Zapier first. As we mentioned and Rob mentioned, Rob and his team at Outliant are experts in Zapier. They work closely with SiteCapture customers on Zapier integrations and helping them get things connected. So Rob, why don't we kick off with, tell us about what Zapier is. Maybe just explain to our audience what it is, how it works, what the benefits of it are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of high level, Zapier lives in this category. It's called an integration platform as a service. So you're probably familiar with software as a service. It's essentially an integration platform. There's a number of them out there. Zapier is the biggest one, has the most integrations, and has a lot of flexibility. It's also very easy to use. So, when you get in and I show you the interface, should be something that isn't, off-putting, seems like it's very approachable, and you'll see very easily how everything connects together. To touch on some more of these quick benefits of using a platform like Zapier, when you get in, obviously we want to connect SiteCapture with your existing tooling, but you'll see that there's also a whole world of opportunity for connecting your other applications, whether or not they're related to SiteCapture with each other. And what you'll find is that through taking an automation approach or an integration approach to your business, you'll be able to not only, scale more effectively, you'll create a better experience for your users or customers, as well as your employees. Overall, just opening up your mind to, hey, how can I increase efficiency utilizing automation in my business is just going to make everyone's, day-to-day lives a lot better. So, would love to kind of show you some use cases. Do you want me to go ahead and jump into that?
Yeah, that sounds great. And I think, what would be great to hear is what are some common scenarios that people use? And I know we've talked a lot about these, and we know that, CRM, connecting to their CRMs or connecting to their document storage or connecting to other systems that are kind of really critical systems that they use every day. Those are probably the main ones that would love to hear more about that, or, and anything you have to show the audience would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'll do here is I'll share my screen. I have, let's call it 7 or 8 automations. I'll just show you real quick. Don't kind of get overwhelmed by the number of those. I'm just going to kind of build on the complexity a little bit. And again, the thing I want you to keep in mind, though, is you're not limited to what I'm going to show you here. Pretty much, I'd say 99% of, if you can kind of dream it or think of it, you can do it, right? So it's just really thinking kind of in this mindset of, when I do this, I want this thing to happen. And if it could happen automatically, imagine how much better your business would be and operate. And, the good news is you can do all of those things. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now, and then you should see it here. I'll give it a little zoom in for anyone that might be on a smaller screen. So we're just going to start with a really simple, probably the most common automation that people use. Doesn't matter, again, if you're in solar, construction, and property management. One of the big benefits of SiteCapture, right, is that you have the report files, and then you also have the image files. And a lot of times, you want to get those out of SiteCapture automatically. Ideally, you want to store them. You may want to send them to customers. send them to internal stakeholders, whatever that may be. So the most simple of all is essentially you start with what's called a trigger in Zapier. And so the trigger is just like, that when this happens, right? So the trigger starts off all workflows. Every workflow needs a trigger. So when this happens, then what? And so that's what leads into what's referred to in Zapier as an action. So a trigger starts the workflow, and then the workflow consists of actions. So the most common one, again, is uploading a file or images to, it could be Google Drive, it could be Dropbox, it could be Box. Again, all these platforms have integrations, so you don't need to confine yourself to just thinking Google Drive. But for instance, a project status is updated in SiteCapture, right? So, okay, a project is marked as complete inside of SiteCapture or whatever you've kind of denoted as complete. I want to go ahead and go to Google Drive and I want to upload that file. So, without getting into all the weeds here, you'll see kind of the way it's set up is you configure your trigger, right? You have your project status updated. On this step here, you're going to put the status as complete. I'm not going to get into every single field here. A lot of them are self-explanatory. And then also we're here to support you if you do have questions. There's also a good bit of documentation. But the main thing, all right, when a project is complete, trigger this workflow. The next thing that'll happen is, okay, now what? Now we want to go and upload a file to Google Drive. So you'll select the event that you want, which is the upload a file. And then on that action, you're going to select the drive. You'll select the folder. And then you'll just say, hey, okay, I want to upload the report file, right? So you'll be able to click here and just choose the report file. You see, here's the images file, right? That's one. But then you also have the report file. So there's obviously a number of fields here. So it does make it easier. You can just kind of start typing in here. Oh, there's the report file. That's great. Again, this stuff's straightforward. Don't need to get into too many details, but just to show you a little bit of the user interface here. And then you can also name the file. And you can do this using what are called variables. So essentially, whatever your SiteCapture project is named, you can name your Google Drive file that as well automatically without having to do really much at all. So that's a really simple use case. A lot of times you may need to be a little bit more sophisticated because it's like you see here, I didn't select a specific folder, right? And there's you're like, oh, I need to go into this folder, right? We already have a customer folder, which is very common. So what I'll show you here is another little bit more sophisticated workflow. It's called a multi-step Zap.
Hey, Rob, maybe before you dive in, because I just a few questions. So a couple things. So I think what you're showing on this first one, a really simple case. So, you just go into Zapier and you're saying, hey, I want to connect two apps together. And you pick SiteCapture as one app and you click Google Drive as the other. Is that kind of how you get started?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So when you come in, it's going to essentially be a blank canvas where you see over here where it says change. In the beginning, it's going to just basically be gray and you're just going to select an app. And there's thousands of apps on Zapier. So more likely than not, your software is supported. And we'll talk a little bit later about what to do if you don't find your app on there. But generally, it's on here. So you'll select that. Most of the time, for a lot of these examples, SiteCapture is going to be the app you're going to trigger off of. And then on the next one, you can change it. I'll show you here what that looks like. I could select Dropbox, or maybe I use, Box, right? Okay, there's one for Box. So you just easily type in what you're looking for and it'll come up.
Cool. So you did in basically 5 minutes, you've set up something that every time a SiteCapture project is complete, the report file is going to automatically end up in a special folder in Google Drive. It's automatically. That's what it is. Just with
automatically
5 minutes of configuring these steps. That's what we'll end up with. Cool. Okay, great.
Awesome.
All right, let's get more sophisticated.
A little bit more sophisticated here. Again, we're going to start with the same project status updated. It's going to be marked off a complete. That's generally the workflow. But again, you can choose other statuses if you want. What's going to happen here is instead of going and just directly uploading a file, what we're going to do is we're going to actually create a folder inside of Google Drive first. So when you create that folder, you essentially are creating, whether it's your customer folder or the project name, whatever that may be, you're going to select or create a folder to then upload those files to. So then as you go through the rest of the steps, you'll be able to upload files to the folder that you just connected. So basically similar to the last one. The only difference here is we're actually creating the folder that we want the files to go into versus just uploading the file to a pre-existing folder.
Cool, great.
And you'll see here, I do have 2 upload file steps. So let's say that you wanted to upload the report file as well as the images file. You don't need 2 separate zaps. You can just have it all in one. So this step's going to upload the report. This one's going to upload the images. Easy as that.
Very cool.
Awesome. So oftentimes you'll also be like, okay, well, I already have an existing folder, right? I don't need to create a new one. I know where it needs to go. And it's a specific place. So what you'll do then, and let me zoom in again here, is again, same trigger, project status updated. Now we're going to find a customer folder. So when you're actually using this step here, you'll be able to use data from SiteCapture to find that customer folder. So you'll be looking at, maybe it's based off of the project name or it's the customer name or whatever it may be, but you'll be able to find that folder and then you'll be able to upload from there. So I have an additional step right here that's called find photos in folder. So really what I wanted to show you, this isn't, you don't necessarily always need to find photos, right? Or find whatever, but I want to show you that you can have multiple search steps that are kind of nested. So I want to find the customer folder, right? And then just imagine here, it's like, I want to find something within that folder, right? So, maybe you find that the photos already exist, right? And then you can do something with that file in future steps, or what you can do from there is, you're just going to go ahead and upload the photos. So I actually meant to, all transparency, separate this out into 2 different workflows, but to kind of show you here what you're going to do. You can find a folder, you can find something within that folder, but then you can also upload something within there. So just another example of where maybe you already have the pre-existing folder, so you want to go ahead and find that first.
Cool. That's great. So it's just a lot of flexibility in terms of where you can manage your folders and where the files go and things like that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Probably the biggest thing I hear often is like, oh, well, there's some nuance. Every business has a nuance to it, how, especially when it comes to solar companies or, even construction and property management, is like, well, we do it this way. I've worked at other companies similarly, but we do things a little bit differently. And that can sometimes create a mental block to how you're going to set up automations because of doing things differently. The nice thing and what I'm trying to communicate here is that it doesn't matter the nuances or the differences in your business. You can use automations that are going to match your existing workflows.
Cool. All right, Rob, you got any other kinds of integrations that people do, or any other kind of systems that people integrate with that you want to?
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of breeze through this one a little bit quicker. I just wanted to show you, because the other one was Google Drive. You can do the same thing with Dropbox. Very common. I'm creating the folder, and then I'm uploading the photos. I'm uploading the reports. This is just the most standard. But getting into something a little bit, more unique, like, okay, well, great. What are other things I could potentially do? So let's say that you complete an install or you complete a project, whatever it is, you may want to send a notification to that customer or potentially to an operations manager or really anyone that, hey, this project has been completed, right? So a really simple, easy step here, you're going to trigger off of a project status updated, and then you're going to send an email in Gmail. And again, you can use other mailing platforms besides Gmail. It doesn't just have to be Gmail. But you can send that email out, and that way, again, you're going to increase, maybe your customer experience by having more real-time notifications of, keeping them up to date on the project. Because imagine it doesn't have to just be off of install complete, or the complete status can be, hey, this is in progress. And maybe you have a variety of steps. You want to keep both the customer and internal, operations people or whomever up to date with where the project is, right? Maybe there's certain actions they need to take internally when a project reaches a certain stage. And let's say you rely heavily on email. Automating that email delivers a lot of peace of mind. So you're not having to stay up to date inside of SiteCapture, looking for the project, where is it? And it also just creates way more efficiency. So yeah, that's a really common workflow.
Great. And Rob, what about things like, these are sort of one-step things. What are things where you want to kind of more of a two-way integration between another system? Like, I think a lot of our customers integrate SiteCapture into their CRM, where they want data to flow from customer information that's already in there, flow into SiteCapture, so that like when they create a project, the customer name and a lot of information about the customer flows in. And then when the project's complete, or when the inspection's complete, that data flows back into the CRM. So people who work in the CRM can see maybe a PDF report or see some of the data fields flow back. Even if you don't have an example to show about
absolutely.
that, we have maybe just, can you talk through a little bit about some cases where you've set that up and different CRMs that maybe you've done this with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll actually jump here to this this integration with Monday. You may use Monday.com. You may use ClickUp. You may use Zoho, HubSpot. Again, whatever the CRM or project management tool you use, it doesn't matter. This is all pretty much the same, right? So let's say that you have a new item, right? Whatever that may be, something is created inside your CRM. So maybe you had a deal that was closed, right? Or you have something that came in, a maintenance request, or it doesn't really matter kind of what it is. That's going to be your trigger instead of SiteCapture, right? So now you want to integrate your external systems with SiteCapture. So this external thing happened where now I need to create a project in SiteCapture because we got to send someone out in the field to complete a project. So when that happens, then what you're going to do is you're going to create a project inside of SiteCapture. Again, here, all automated. And then you're going to update that project in SiteCapture. And so the nice thing about updating that project, right, is we're going to map in, different information, like maybe the location, the name of the person, whatever some of that relevant information is. And you're not limited on the amount of information you can map in, by the way. So if you have a ton of information in your CRM that you need to push into SiteCapture, you can push as much or as little of that as you want. But anyway, so this happens in your CRM, project management tool. You create the project in SiteCapture. You pass in all the information that the field user or whomever is going to need. And then afterwards, what you do is you can actually go back to your CRM or your project management tool, and you can take data from SiteCapture. Like, okay, here is the link to that SiteCapture project. So now that's stored inside of your CRM. So anyone that works out of there will know, okay, that's there. Or maybe it's like SiteCapture projects created, so that actually needs to advance a project in your pipeline, or it needs to change a deal stage or a project stage. You can then say, okay, SiteCapture has been completed. Go back to our CRM and mark it as, site survey scheduled or whatever may actually be the case. So, the thing with Zapier to keep in mind is that it's kind of one directional as far as like you have a trigger that starts and you have a bunch of actions, but you're not limited on the number of actions that can take place. And you can always pull data from the previous steps into the following ones. So that's why we have Monday down here. We're going to update the same project that happened in the trigger, but now we're going to be able to pass in data from all the stuff that happened in between. And just so you all know, you can have Zaps that get very sophisticated. You're not really limited on the number of steps. And I'll also kind of hop over here. I wanted to show you all real quick what's called a path. And so with a path, not to get too complicated, but you can have essentially multiple workflows within a single workflow, and you can use filters or rules to determine the action that takes place. So if like maybe if the project is complete, do this. If the project's in progress, do this. So you can really start to get more sophisticated with how you build your workflows. And honestly, like, there's really not much you can't do, because as we're going to talk about with the API, your brain kind of turns off. Don't let it turn off. What I'll tell you is that Zapier is basically an interface for the API, but there's also ways that you can use Zapier to directly interface with the API, which gives you just absolutely any possibility you want. But that's a little bit more advanced, and you don't need to worry about that for right now. But just open up your mind to the fact that using a tool like Zapier It's a really low cost way. They have plans, even like free plans where you can set some of this up to get started, start building automations, and kind of see how you can make a difference in the day-to-day of your business.
Yes, that's great, Rob. So, I think one of the questions that came in was, how long does it take kind of end to end? And I think so say somebody reaches out and says, hey, we want to get a Zapier, going, and we want to connect our CRM in a simple way that when, a new customer gets created, we automatically create a project in SiteCapture. And then when it's complete, we want the PDF and a couple pieces of data to flow back. So it sounds like step one is, you got to sign up for a Zapier account, which probably just takes a couple of minutes. You pick what plan you want. I think it's a relatively low cost platform. I don't know the cost offhand, but I think it's something to look into. But then if they connected with you, like how long does it take if they were, connected with you, how long would it take to get something like that in place? Is it hours? Is it weeks? Is it months? Is it days?
Yeah. So generally for kind of the most common integrations, it's going to take 30 to 90 minutes. Just kind of depending, again, if you have existing folder structures, it can take a little bit longer, close to that 90 minutes. If you kind of are approaching things, from scratch, 30 minutes. But certainly you can transform your business, not, with SiteCapture, but also with other tooling in the matter of a day. It's a very powerful tool.
Awesome. Yeah. So for those of you that are interested in this, just know that it's actually really straightforward. And, we provide a lot of support around getting these things set up and try to get you up and running as quickly as possible. So pretty small investment to get a pretty huge payback in terms of getting your systems working together.
Yeah. And if you have a lot of companies I've encountered, they always have, especially in, kind of these industries, there's always that like one kind of tech guy internally, right? Who kind of handles a lot of the systems. He probably is already aware of Zapier. So I'd ask him about it. And if he's not, send it over. Whoever that kind of tech guy is, he'll just totally get it. Because again, this is built for non-technical people. So non-technical people can work with Zapier, no problem. But if you hand it over to someone that, is a little bit more technical, it's just a breeze for them and they'll totally get it. They'll be able to knock things out. I can set things up in 5-10 minutes, right? So it's really not a big deal.
Yeah, great. I think that's the other nice thing that we're there to provide support if needed, but I think there are a lot of our customers that are able just to sign up with Zapier and connect the apps together on their own without any help at all, which is awesome to see. Yeah. We're just over 10:30. We're going to take a few extra minutes because there's some questions, but I also did want to touch a little bit. We've talked a lot about Zapier and the power of Zapier and the ability to get up and running and get these things done in a really short amount of time. I did want to talk a little bit about our API. And, I think where the API comes into play a lot is that customers, they have a technology team. They have maybe their own technology or some custom technology that they don't have a Zapier app. And really what they want to do is they've got a bunch of internal integration workflows where they have data flowing from a bunch of systems. They want to loop SiteCapture into that. And so that's the case if people who have, people who have more sophisticated integration needs and you have a development team or you have technical resources that know how to code integrations, you can use our API. And again, if you want more information on the API, you can reach out to support@sitecapture.com. If you're a customer, if you want to learn more about it, and you're not a customer yet, but it's a critical part of your decision-making, our sales team would be happy to walk you through the API, show you what the documentation looks like. And it's generally pretty straightforward. API integrations, I think they're generally things that, with a developer and requiring testing, but they're definitely things that our customers do in a week or two when they're doing lightweight integrations. And sometimes they're things that are under continuous development. So the API is a much more powerful and flexible approach if you have things that don't fit into the kind of the Zapier flows that we're looking at. One other question come up, Rob, was what are there other CRMs that you integrate with? Like we use Podio. Is that something that so is that one?
Podio, extremely common. Job Nimbus is common. I haven't actually encountered a CRM that doesn't have an integration. So the only one, just as a quick heads up, that sometimes can be a little more challenging would be like a NetSuite, where you're probably going to need to utilize more of the API. But we can talk more about those specific things. Some of the more larger scale enterprise, potentially legacy softwares tend to have more closed systems. And so getting access to them can be more challenging. But most of any of the modern softwares that you're going to be using, you're going to be able to integrate with pretty easily.
Cool. There was also a question, can I integrate with my accounting system? I use QuickBooks Online.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. That's actually another very common workflow. I was going to pull one up, but couldn't really share it given some of the information. But yeah, QuickBooks is very common. You can, if you essentially did some sort of estimate within SiteCapture, you can actually push them to QuickBooks to generate an invoice. You can create the customer, generate an invoice, and send it off to them all automatically. Depending on how you structure things, right, those can start to get a little bit more, not complicated, just, it's going to take you another half an hour, right? But they can be a little bit more complicated, but it's completely doable. So you can integrate your accounting systems with SiteCapture. And again, even if it's outside of SiteCapture and thinking other things in your business, I want to integrate just my CRM with my QuickBooks or my Xero. You can do that. That's very easy.
Very cool. Great. Another question came up around, it's more about on the pricing side for SiteCapture. What plans are these available in? So our Zapier integration is available in our second tier plan, our professional plan, and our API is available in our premium plan. And if you have more questions about that, as customers, feel free to reach out to support and support@sitecapture.com, and we can answer more questions and make sure you have the right plan to be able to take advantage of Zapier if you're looking to do that, or take advantage of the API. And happy to provide more information about that from our support team. Let's see. Let's look for what other questions came in. Here's one. Are there any other integrations that you've done that are outside of the standard ones?
Yeah, so I'd say outside of the standard ones is really where you're looking at using what are called supported apps on Zapier, and then some of the more sophisticated tooling. So they do have, like we've been talking about the API. Again, you can integrate with the API via Zapier. So using something that's called webhooks, we can talk about it later, but essentially there's webhooks that also supports custom code that you can execute. So there's been a lot of more sophisticated setups where we're using essentially maybe custom code or also API requests, whether it's into the SiteCapture API or another tool that doesn't have a Zapier app, it does have an API, where we're making API requests to actually pull in data or send data, and then potentially even executing some custom code within it. So that's on the more definitely custom route. But as far as just general supported apps, I mean, I've seen full 30-step automations where you're creating all these, and typically what happens is once you start automating, you realize, hey, I want to automate at this kind of middle point in my customer journey or in my operations workflow. And you realize, well, for this automation to even be better, I should automate here and then automate here. So you end up kind of backing yourself out and looking at your whole business and adding automation starting at usually the very beginning. So you can end up realizing that there's 20 manual steps that people take once a project is signed or something, or maybe even a lead has come in, that now you're doing all those automations at the beginning. You're creating all the folders, you're creating the SiteCapture project, you're creating the customer project, you're kind of interlinking all of your tools right in the beginning so that when your workflow kicks off on the manual stuff, all that data is there to be accessed by all your systems. So I'd say the most advanced stuff I see is just people that their business is just almost, mostly automated.
Yeah, that's great. I think just to wrap up, we've had a pretty technical conversation here about how to use the tools, but I think one thing to remember that this is all about bringing efficiency to your business at the end of the day, which is, operational efficiency is critical for making sure you can increase your profit margins, make sure you can shorten the time it takes to do projects, making sure your people are focused on the right things and the right priorities. And I think, one of the benefits that our customers get out of integration is all of those things. One is just the idea of getting a lot more operational efficiency, and then also having your team, making your team a lot more productive. They don't need to be working and worrying about tedious flipping back and forth or copying data from one place to another, allows them to focus on really solving business problems, supporting customers, getting projects done, and less on a lot of this tedious stuff. So we've seen our customers get incredible benefits out of it. And I think one of the things we really wanted to relay in this is that it's actually really easy to do that. I know technical integration it's a scary thing. It seems like a really big effort, but Zapier is a platform that we support and makes it really easy to get the benefits of integration with actually just a little bit of effort and just in a very short amount of time. So for anybody who's looking to bring operational efficiency, has been thinking about integration, it feels like a huge leap. We're here to make it really simple for you and be able to actually do those things that let your business operate more effectively and efficiently. And I think that's how I'd like to wrap up, is really just be thinking about that. And we're here to help. And for customers, reach out to support@sitecapture.com if you want more. For anybody who's looking at SiteCapture as a platform, feel free to reach out to our sales team to learn more about this at sales@sitecapture.com. And we'd be happy to answer your questions. At the end of the day, as a company, as the CEO of this company, the founder of this company, I always think about our goal is to make your businesses operate as efficiently as possible and help you be successful. And this is just another opportunity for us to be able to do that. So anyway, thank you everybody for joining from the audience. Rob, thanks a lot for the conversation today. A lot of really insightful stuff on technical integration, and we'll wrap up. Thanks everybody.
Sounds great. Yeah, thank you very much. Talk to you soon.